Welcome to our July regular Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Paulette Frias.
Here.
Judy Boucher. John Queen.
Here.
Pat Latham.
Here.
Brian Tobin. In the event of an emergency, visitors are advised that they may exit this room from the one side door which leads directly into the parking lot. In the event of an emergency, everyone is asked
Be careful.
yes, to move away from the building and do not attempt to leave in your automobiles. This may cause traffic problems and block incoming emergency vehicles.
Thank you, Patty. Our first item is our first hearing of visitors. At this time, we will entertain comments and questions about agenda items only. And I'm kind of guessing based on our audience, nobody cares to address the board on this one. Okay. That brings us to our consent agenda, which is our approval from our reorganizational meeting of July 7th, and our financial matters and our CSEs. So we have our bills, our treasurer's report from June, our monthly budget status report from June, transfers, although I didn't see any transfers. Were there any? Or did I- There
There
were.
was not that many. There was like 4.
Very strange. Okay. Our extra classroom activity fund, and we also have some contracted services with School Aid Specialties LLC, CMDI Consulting That Makes a Difference, Serene Home Nursing, Metro Therapy Inc., and Dr. Philip Eisenberg, who's a pediatric neuropsychologist of Long Island. And
What is the CMDI?
That's a special ed services,
Yeah,
consulting service.
it's a consulting firm for students with special needs, yeah.
And there were no CSEs this month.
Correct.
So is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any old business? No, you got back to us, and I appreciate that. I want to make note of that following our meeting, because we did have some open questions and stuff, and thank you for the quick response to that within a
You're
few
very
days
welcome.
after the meeting. And I believe one of them is on here. Yes.
The SSD coordinator?
Yes, okay. Okay, superintendent's report.
So, just very quickly, camp wraps up tomorrow. It's been an extremely positive experience. Our kids have been engaged in a lot of really interesting, thought-provoking, and interactive activities where they work with their peers, work with adults, a lot of STEM work. I watched them use rubber bands to blow up watermelons the other day, if you've ever seen that. You just keep adding rubber bands, and eventually the pressure from just rubber bands will split a watermelon directly in half. So they've really had a lot of really interesting activities, and it's certainly, we're going to look at it when we're done, and I'm sure there's a lot of things we could do differently. They just tie-dyed 85 shirts over the last 3 days so that every student is leaving with a tie-dyed shirt. They took a trip to Cornell Cooperative today. We had bus access because we used our bus for our extended year program, so we were able to use it in between. So a lot of really good and interesting stuff for a camp that was put together through grant funding very late, because we got the funding very late and we got the guidelines on what we could use it for late. Parents and kids have been extremely flexible and really good, and so have the people working it. Our teachers have done an outstanding job, and our TAs and our aides, and we've had kind of all hands on deck because it was so late. It was hard getting a group together. So it's really been a wonderful experience. I've been out there probably, I would say 10 of the 15 days, and the tent worked perfectly.
Is there a thought of leaving that tent up, at least for the fall, so that the kids could have an opportunity to be outside?
We wouldn't leave it up, but we looked into getting a tent for school for last year. When you utilize the tent for school, it's a whole different ballgame. It has to meet certain criteria and qualifications, whereas when you use it for summer camp, because we're on school property, the fire marshal had to come and inspect it, but that's it. So there's a possibility, because it's not that we can't meet the criteria. There were a lot of districts that did. I was at districts watching some of our sporting teams this year, and Port Jeff had a tent up. There's a number of them that didn't have the space that we had, so they needed to utilize tents just to have lunch for their kids and things like that. So it's a possibility. I have to tell you, it was, it was really, really a great help. On those warm days under the tent, it was beautiful. You got the breeze and it was
I would think if we
shaded.
could do it and we could utilize the funding, the COVID funding even, it's not,
We can,
it's a
I
win-win,
believe.
right?
Yeah.
There's no downside to it.
No,
How does the kids change between being voluntarily in the summertime and here during the fall? The same kids under the same tent, doing the same stuff.
yes. Well, I mean, the CDC yesterday,
Yeah. What do you think of that?
I think that within the next week, they're going to tell us in schools what we have to do. And I think it's possible, our camp will be over, but I believe it's possible our extended year program will end the year with masks on. It's not my hope, but I believe it's possible. And I believe we'll start next year.
So
with masks.
ironic, because when the students spoke before us, the two things we kept on hearing was,
Shields.
we hate the masks, and the shields are
And they love being
annoying,
outside.
and they love being outside, so.
Yeah.
And the shields are all gone anyway, though, so the shields aren't.
The shields are stored.
But the masking policy would come from the DOH, the SED, the
It
governor,
comes, it technically comes from
Suffolk County.
DOH through, Suffolk County can make it more restrictive than DOH, like they did with sports testing.
Okay.
DOH said, you're allowed to do sports. Suffolk County said if you want to do sports in Suffolk County, you have to test kids weekly. So the county, just like the school district, could make it more restrictive. The guidelines come from DOH and Department of Education through the executive's office. The governor is involved in that decision also.
So he ultimately could make the decision.
It typically, working with the governor, the Department of Health and Department of Education give us the guidelines that we're required to follow. And since we're licensed by DOA, Department of Ed, they give us the guidelines, we follow them.
Another quick question on that. No, remote learning is not mandated any longer effective July 1, correct? Or that's correct with a question mark?
It's a good question mark. I believe that the executive order was not extended. They've given us no indication that it's been extended, so remote learning requirements wouldn't be in place. That doesn't mean that places won't be doing remote learning. But, quite frankly, we're waiting for the state. We're a month left in the summer, and the state has not given us reopening guidance yet. So we're
That's
really
good.
very, very much at a loss. As much as we're prepared to put together whatever we need to based on the guidelines, we're sitting and waiting for their guidelines. We were hoping they would have come a month ago and give us a full summer.
Yeah, I would think.
Nothing from the School Boards Association,
No.
it seems.
Excuse me?
There's nothing from the School Boards Association that you would think,
Yeah.
They're just waiting.
A number of groups, a number of superintendents associations, the New York State School Boards Association, the New York State Superintendent, have all petitioned the state to give us guidelines. That started probably 3 weeks ago. I mean, it's an ever-changing landscape. I don't know if they wanted to give us guidelines 2.5 months before school started, but we're starting to get
But
close.
now we are getting
Yeah.
close. If things have to be put into place.
It takes us time to put
And
things into
people are
place.
on vacation over the summer, and things,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
because somebody in Albany decides it should be
Yeah.
done.
So we're waiting for that guidance.
And your superintendent's association doesn't have an indication as to when
No.
they think that.
They're pretty good about sharing, and they frequently will get information prior. Nothing yet. So,
So stay tuned.
yeah, stay tuned, and as soon as we get it, it'll get out. We'll get it out to everybody, so that everybody in the community is fully aware of what we are required to do. And then we'll go. So on a better note, I'm going to introduce one of our rising 12th graders, who
Are
is,
you really a senior this year?
she's going to present her proposition for her Girl Scout Gold Award, correct, Ellie? That's what it's called. And she's going to share a little bit of information and a little bit of a clip with us, and then and then she'll answer any questions that you guys or we may have for her, and then we'll look forward to her presenting some of this and sharing it with our community. So, you're up, Ellie.
Kelly's responsible for beautifying that elementary school down there, too. That was a Girl Scout project as well, wasn't it?
It was. So I don't know. Was our okay, so
Is something going to come up on there that I should move?
After. She's gonna
But it's
speak
all right.
first, and then we'll turn around and
Okay,
move.
I just don't want to
Okay.
be in the way.
okay. Hello, esteemed board members, Mr. Keel, who is filming all of us, and of course my mother and my grandmother. My name is Ellie Alloway, and I'm a rising senior in Southold High School, as Mr. Morrow just said. I am here to speak to you today about my Gold Award, which I hope to present to the rest of the student body here in the school. The Gold Award is the highest level of a national award a Girl Scout of my caliber, which is a ambassador, can earn thus far. And in my last 13th year of the program, I plan to do, hopefully, just that with your permission. The project itself centers around North Fork's accounts of 9/11, in all honesty, and the attacks on the World Trade Center and where everybody was. The attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and even beyond. For this, I have filmed and interviewed over 13 interviewees and residents of the North Fork who have graciously given me their testimony to share. And with that, I hope to make a comprehensive documentary that gives respect to those who died in the attacks and those who continue to survive. In an era where more history is fading away from the public eye, I hope to create a reflection so people may never doubt that this horrid event actually happened. My interviewees range from firefighters who helped with survivors, to individuals who helped with cleanup, to individuals who escaped, to radio operators, to even people who were running businesses during this time. While it might be an emotional film to throw in front of a bunch of prepubescent and sometimes immature teenagers, I believe it is extremely important that the youth of today remembers the history of yesterday. And hopefully, with your permission, I might be able to show that. So without further ado, I put together a little trailer for you guys.
Well, I don't know if he's got his filming.
I don't know if I should move either.
Just click that.
Should we turn the lights down?
If that
I
would
think
be,
it's a TV screen, it should be fine.
here. Forgive, this is a little bit of
That
a,
little arrow right there.
there's some old footage.
Everyone knows someone. A friend, a neighbor, a potential relative that never made it out. We've heard the reports, the morning bagpipes, the dozens upon dozens of speeches made in their honor. Yet there are always some of us that can't possibly relate because we weren't there. How do you honor someone that you have no idea who they are? How do you learn and empathize without hearing what happened from a witness? How do you keep history from fading beneath the public eye?
My name is Ellie Alloway. I am an 11th grader at Southold High School. I am an ambassador level Girl Scout of Troop 94. Ever since I could remember, I remember me and my Girl Scout troop going to Cochrane Park and participating in the 9/11 memorial ceremonies. I know many people in the city who have been affected by the events of 9/11, and it's always had a very personal and deep connection with my family. My aunt and uncle lived only a few blocks away from when 9/11 happened. My uncle thought that we were being attacked by a foreign enemy, and his first girlfriend died in the buildings. My neighbor, who lives just across the way, his boss went back in to retrieve his jacket, and he never made it back out. Some way or another, they're all connected. Everybody here is connected, and I feel like that connects with me. Constantly, history is being rediscovered from the past, but at the same rate as being covered up by political turmoils. A little tiny grammatical error could change a person's entire life. And people today don't believe, some people today don't believe that the Holocaust actually happened because there are so little first-person accounts of it. The reason I'm doing this and why it's so important is because we should take all the information we have at our fingertips and keep it so we can always remember what this event was and how we can prevent from it happening again.
The World Trade Center site started the second day, and I spent a year down there on the cleanup. I got put on the cleanup team, so which was pretty grisly and not a very good year. And then rolled over to where I am now.
Your tour, and you had cards. You introduce yourself, you talk about this. You make up a personal story that you give to the tourists from Japan and Germany, where they're from. And you had your own personal touch to the thing.
And they came from the right, from up the Atlantic. I think they dispatched them in Washington or Virginia. So they came from the ocean up to New York, and they were going to circle to protect us, I guess. But when we saw these jets at such close range, and I didn't know until you see the tail, because on the tail it has the USA and the star. So I started saying, they're ours, they're ours. It became like a competition. Oh, we're going to score, like a sporting event. It wasn't, we weren't kidding about it, but we were like, they're ours, so it was like a little bit of a relief, but then again not, because then, wow, the military's in New York. When does that happen? Like when you need military jets in New York. It was sad, the whole thing was crazy.
This is only a tiny portion of all the various interviews and testimonies I've collected from this thus far, and I hope that with clips from the event itself, from different shots of things that remind people of this, I may be able to weave a theoretical quilt of all these different stories and hopefully share it with the rest of the student body here and hopefully beyond. So thank you for your time. And does anybody have any questions?
Very impressive, Ellie. Very, very impressive. Very moving, very touching. I, for one, don't see it being a problem being shown in the school, but I'm not sure exactly how that kind of thing works.
Start maybe a history class, or to start with some of the older kids. And
We can work with Mr. Rosh and our faculty and staff.
Yeah.
I don't. I know that, in one of your mentions, you were concerned about the graphic nature of it. You're going to be a 12th grader now. There are graphic things that we talk about in school because they can't really be talked about any other way or learned about any other way. So I don't perceive that to be an issue in any, way. So we'll work with him about, how we want to do it when we get closer. When you're closer to completing your piece, and then we'll figure it out, okay?
We had a
How long do you
student.
think the final cut will be?
Final will be about an hour to 45 minutes.
You may have to make that a little shorter for your peers in school to sit that long.
for the younger kids,
That's
the
what,
younger kids, give them the.
if it's presented to younger kids, it would definitely be shortened down and have a few versions of
And
it.
these are going to be Southold residents that you're going to be speaking with?
Southold, Mattituck, Cachog, and Greenport.
I think that's great. It'll put a real local, because, different communities had different experiences, obviously.
We had a student here a few years ago whose dad was killed at 9/11. He's no longer in Southold. He moved to Brooklyn, I believe. You remember him, right? Mm-hmm. He was here for a long time. He immediately came to mind. I think he was 3 at the time.
So, and then we'll talk more. I know that Mr. Rush's family, his dad's a firefighter.
Actually, if I may interject, Ellie interviewed Mr. Rush, who was
Oh,
a
good.
teenager
Yeah.
at the time.
Wonderful.
Mr. Rush mentioned
His
that,
story
yeah.
as well.
So there's a number of, there's a number of connections. I mean, my cousin's firehouse was across the street from the Trade Center, the one that was covered with all the debris. So there's a number of people that, when you sent us that I know I emailed back to you that if you need people. I went to a college that is predominantly I went to Iona College, which is all firefighters and police officers. Everybody I played rugby and football with was. So there's a number of people. They're not North Fork people. I do like the North Fork angle. Just one suggestion when I watched your clip, and I know it's just a tiny clip, and you may be doing this already. When you weave it together, if you could embed like questions. So for instance, when the first person spoke, you had asked him a question and then he answered, and we could hear the answer, but we didn't know what the question was.
So you want me to kind of envelop the question?
I just think it's easier, like, listening to him speak about what you asked him. I had to think about what you asked him before I could understand, what he was talking about. Like, you clearly asked him what his role was down there or something along those lines, and then he said, I got there the second day, and then I spent a year, on cleanup, and, so just, when we have a group of students watching it, it might be a little easier to understand. If you if you watch documentaries, you'll see that they go back and forth between kind of like a question and then an answer, so that it's just a little easier for someone that's not as familiar. You're very, very familiar with this, so you follow it like that. But it may be easier for other people to follow if you put it together with that information.
Totally understand. I think it's a good suggestion.
Okay.
What is your time frame, Ellie? Do you have to have it completed by a certain time for your award, your achievement for the Girl Scouts? Or?
Well, I want to have the final, the whole length documentary, or at least one version of it, ready to present inside at the 9/11 Memorial in Cochrane Park. And the rec center there has a kind of a screening room, so I hope to present it there.
This September.
This September. It's 20th anniversary.
You've done most of the interviews, right?
I have. I think my last one is tomorrow.
Thank you for bringing
Good stuff.
that to us.
Good
Great
stuff.
Thank you.
Let us know if we can help.
Absolutely.
Brian was there, or was he in the fire department?
Was Brian in the fire? Brian was, I think.
20 years?
He was, because that's why they moved out here. Actually, his wife told me the story. Connie was working in there as well.
Yeah.
We did have an influx of residents soon thereafter, and so a number of them, I can think of
One
at
of
least
them's-
3
one
or
of
4,
those-
are still here.
It's the nurse in the school.
Yeah, they, had to get away from your...
Like, for example, I interviewed Mimi Newer, who was Joe's newer mother, and she was living in D.C. at the time, and she was only a building away. She was in the Capitol building when the Pentagon got attacked, so I was able to hear that from that perspective. What I think is very interesting is that there are all these different perspectives, but they all somehow end up in the same area. So I think that's something I really want to enunciate and focus on. So that's all.
Good job.
Thank you for your time.
Look forward to
Be the
seeing
girl
it.
to watch going forward, that's for sure.
Oh, gosh, thank
Submit it
you.
to Mr. Stoll as well. There's got to be some sort of master's thesis like.
Value to that.
Yeah.
Isn't something also usually done here with ROTC on 9/11? I mean, about 9/11 too?
This year was such a different, I don't know
Oh,
what we
that's
do.
right.
sure this year
It
there's
wouldn't
gonna be a
it wouldn't
I've
have
only
been
been here,
this
It's
I've only been here
20
for a
years.
pandemic,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
The memorial itself, when we did the 15th year memorial service, I've been involved with it for many years as the Girl Scout leader and helping coordinate with the local committee. And they, on the 15th anniversary, I believe the ROTC did march along with the Fire Chiefs Council. And I know that there was an invitation that went out to the choirs from Mattituck, Southold, and Greenport. I know that the 9/11 committee is intending to try to, because again, this is a banner year.
The
It's
anniversary,
The
yeah.
20th anniversary. So I believe the intention is for there to be the ceremony, as opposed to usually in the evenings on off years. This year, I believe it's going to be in the morning, Saturday this year, along with the timeline of the actual events from 9/11 itself. The details
Oh,
for
it is
that.
this Saturday this year, that's right.
It is Saturday, and
Yep,
actually
yep,
Ellie has
yep.
a tennis match, and we have to send it to Flanagan to see if get that moved.
Because we have a class reunion the following Saturday, I have to tell
Yeah, the next weekend is coming
Yes,
after that.
yeah.
So I know that the details for this year's memorial are still being put together, and as soon as that is, you will be getting invitations, so.
I assume you've been down there, yes? Yeah.
We've not been to the museum yet.
No, we can't.
I haven't been able to stomach it yet, but she's been to the memorial, and we intended to go to the museum when she decided to do this project, and then we had a pandemic. So we didn't get there. They just reopened. The man, the first man in the film,
He's a curator.
he's the vice president of the museum, and he was telling us off camera about all the ins and outs of putting together their 9/11 memorial celebration.
And some of the controversies of some of the pieces there, because some people suspect there are actual human remains in some of the pieces.
Well, there are people who didn't want anything there. They considered it a cemetery. You know, I mean, unfortunately, you know, you can't, you know, it's, there's no right or wrong. That's right. You just, no, and
It's a very personal thing.
yes,
And
yes.
you're doing a wonderful thing, and I think you should remind the people that you're 17.
I'm going to be 17.
So
in 3
that's
months.
3 years before you were born it happened, so that you would have that much of an interest and would be that passionate to you. I think you should highlight or note somewhere there, because those that are going to see it aren't going to realize that going forward. Your classmates will know, but by your voice, nobody's going to know that you're a 17-year-old girl. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. Now we have to get to the boring stuff. Thanks for brightening up our meeting. We love when students.
Of course, little death and destruction to brighten up the meeting.
Love it, love it, love it.
Are you, are you missing a light or just a box to a light? Because there's a errant light in my office, or at least a box for it. When you interviewed Don Fisher, it's a little box about this big,
Isn't it like that big and it says like new someone?
red box with a white, it looks like a light that would go on top of a camera or something like that.
Red box.
Oh, I think that's one of the box. Like, remember when we were so annoyed at
We lost a tripod somewhere at one of
We
the
did.
interviews.
We lost that at the Mattatuck Firehouse. So we're just.
Oh, this was just a light that I looked at, I don't know, because the tech guy was in there, he goes, what's this? I don't know, but then I remembered you guys were in there, so.
Charlie had brought a lot of stuff as well, so I'm not
Okay.
sure. It might be Charlie's.
Okay.
Okay. We need a motion to award the RFP for architect services to Michael J. Guido Jr., the new architect for our district.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thanks for taking that on that committee. I know that was a lengthy process you guys went through. We have some personnel recommendations from the superintendent. Entering the district, girls varsity winter track, Bill Heine. Spring track, boys JV track to be determined. Girls JV track, Bill Heine. Summer weight room, Joe Corrado. Also, these coaches here for summer weight room? Or are they for?
From my understanding from Mr. Flanagan, that they'll be bringing their teams in periodically to use the weight room. So they will be supervising in the weight room.
Yeah.
But that would be included in their coaching salaries, I'm assuming. If it's like preseason things, or,
No, it would be summer work, not preseason. It wouldn't be part of preseason.
but it hasn't happened yet.
Correct.
Where summer's like only
Yeah,
2 weeks
no,
left in
they-
summer, right?
There's only, 4 weeks left in the summer. No, it would not be part of their regular season, though, or their regular, like, it wouldn't be done during the regular season. It would be done prior to it.
Okay, I just know that preseason is a couple weeks before the school starts, so it wouldn't be that time, it would be prior to
Once the
that.
season has started, then they work with their kids as part of their coaching.
Okay, it is coaches Carver, Himmelman, Tedeschi, and Dragones. And then we have sophomore class club advisor, Ms. Brubaker, SSD coordinator, Mr. Crimmy, translation and interpretation, Miriam Hirates, and elementary sub-coordinator, Teresa Pressler. We do that and then do the abolishment? Is that how we should do that?
Or you can do one whole motion, whatever.
Well, let's do this one, then I read a motion for the
So moved.
superintendent. Second?
Second.
All in favor? And then abolishment of a position, be it resolved that the district hereby abolishes one teaching position in the elementary tenure area effective July 29th, 2021. And be it further resolved that Mary Catherine Troll is the least senior employee in the elementary tenure, and therefore she is hereby excess from her position effective July 29th, 2021. And be it further resolved that Mary Catherine Troll is hereby placed on a preferred eligibility list in her tenure area in accordance with the relevant provisions of the New York State Education Law. Is there a motion?
Quick question, how long has she been here?
A year.
Just want to sure.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And she was made aware of this months ago, when the numbers looked like that it wouldn't be necessary for another position.
So we have, is it now 2 sections in all of the elementary, or most of the elementary?
About half and half.
Half and half?
Yeah.
And do we still do 3 sections in the kindergarten? Is that because we want smaller classes
Depends
there?
on the
We don't-
K1 and 2 are the
we don't
same
right now.
policy.
Okay,
Yeah, right now, we don't have enough for 3.
We didn't a couple of years ago either.
I know. So
Really didn't last year either.
So
Yeah.
we're in the low 40s?
We're below that even in kindergarten.
Can,
yeah.
in our, maybe before our August meeting, give us an enrollment update, because I
Yeah,
know
I
it's
have it in
too
my
early
office.
now.
I got it
know
this week.
We had a little bit of a bump last year with COVID.
Mhm.
Has that,
No,
that has not continued?
hasn't changed. We had a very little bit of a bump.
Small.
Comparatively.
Compared to other places?
There were districts that doubled,
Sugar Island.
Quad got 90 students, they only had 110 to start with. We had
15, 20?
We had probably 15 or 20, and throughout the year, that almost balanced off. Our elementary school right now, when I got my numbers the other day, I think was about 325.
We've had a lot of elementary families move out of district, too.
Yeah.
That just-
Yeah, full district-wide, I think we were up about 20, 25 students, something like that, and that includes both buildings.
I'm wondering also if families are waiting to hear about the remote learning determination as well.
Yeah. And when the city announced schools were going to be open next year, I think a number of parents all throughout the Forks withdrew students. Things change, though. We'll see what happens.
Stay tuned.
Now, I have a question. Obviously, I feel very bad that someone who had a job doesn't have a job,
Got
Has a
another
job.
one.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask. All right,
She was notified back in April.
Yeah. And she's also she's a very good teaching candidate. I observed her teach. She's really, we would love to have her. Other places would love to have her, too,
Sure.
one of which hired her
And
already.
good, so things are going to be okay for her?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
As Patty pointed out, quite often when teachers retire, it makes room for, and we did have retirement
But not
time,
in the right
which did
place.
save somebody else that was
Right, but
going
not
to go
enough.
too.
No, I know.
We were really looking at 2.
Yeah.
I gave out 2 excess
Yeah, I
notices.
can't remember, though, the last time we actually did this.
We were talking about, I don't
Since
remember.
I've been on the
every-
board.
I don't
Maybe
remember.
not, and to me, as a board member, that's really personal. That makes me feel horrible.
Yes.
I remember going from
But
full-time
you
to
know what?
part-time.
I
in
mean, that's the
positions.
reality.
Yeah.
But I just feel, I look at, this is,
Like 2006.
this is, you look at someone's name, and it's like you're doing all this official stuff, and firing them.
I do remember that other situation.
So just so that you guys know, the process that I followed this year was, I met with both of them, explained the entire situation, provided them with their letters, and then kept in touch with them through Ellen, because they both happen to be in the elementary. We ended up with a retirement, so the 2 notices that I
Sure,
gave out
sure.
really went to 1.
Right.
There was always the understanding that with enrollment, the 1 could change to 0, but in fairness to a very good employee, I didn't want her waiting, and she put herself out there, and she was scooped right up, because she really is quite good.
And I do think a lot of teachers retired this year as a result of COVID, which
Sure,
opened
sure.
up positions for a lot of new teachers.
And maybe it's closer to her home.
We've
How is that
communicated.
treated as a personnel issue as far as,
Tenure?
well, no, just how do you personally address that when you've given the excess letter, they might be excessed, or they're going to be excessed, and they go and interview, and I assume you give a glowing recommendation just because it's through no fault of their own that they're being excessed?
I mean, in this case, it was easy for me. She happens to be really quite good. She's very good. I watched her teach, and she was somewhere else prior to here, I think in a part-time role, so she had some experience. Speaking with the district that she was going to, it was easy for me to give her an excellent recommendation. And I told them the truth. I'd love to keep her. I just don't have the spot.
It's 7 years, is that the number?
She's on the preferred eligible list for 7 years, so
So
we will have to notify her every elementary position we have
For 7
for the
She
next
has the
7 years. We
opportunity.
will have to notify her, she'd come back anytime. She has also informed us that she would love to have been here. She loved being here, she thought it was a wonderful experience for her. She believes it helped in her quest for another position. So as much as these are never positive things, all of this was a fairly positive experience for both of us because a good teacher ended up in a job. And we got a good teacher for a year. So, the excess part of it, she sent me a resignation letter. I called her up and said, we had intentions of accessing you, which would give you certain rights that you won't have if you resign. So she withdrew her resignation letter and we accessed her because, again, she did a really good job for us, so.
Gives her more options.
Yeah, out of
If
decency.
she resigns, I guess she doesn't get that
Right.
preferred.
She
Doesn't
doesn't
get
get
it.
the
So out of
preferred
decency to her, I spoke with her over the summer and I said, this is what I would advise you to do and this is what I would prefer to do. She talked about it with her family over the weekend. She contacted me Monday and there's her name. So. I don't know if she asked anybody,
Smart.
yeah, there's a lot of this stuff that people, there's no, it's kind of an unknown. I think in fairness to anybody who works for us, we should provide them with the best possible advice that we can and all the information we can. So when she sent a resignation letter in, which was a very decent thing to do so that she could accept the job elsewhere, I reached out to her and explained the situation, and then she, like I said, she contacted me back after the weekend and said, I appreciate it, that'd be fine, I'd prefer being accessed.
And of course, the devil's always in the details. There could be occasions where that wouldn't be in the best interest of our district.
Correct. Yeah,
Right?
yes.
Just,
Okay.
all right, Finance
I don't want
Committee.
to do that again.
Finance Committee report. They're not here and they have nothing to report. Building Committee.
So we have to do the DASNY? Isn't that on your,
I have nothing on my Finance Committee.
number 9, is that on yours?
12.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I have it in the wrong order, on my minutes I'm doing, okay, never mind.
Okay. Building Committee report.
We have not had a meeting, and summer's sort of slow, there's not much going on. And I don't know if do we need a meeting in August before school starts, or should we aim for September? I'm
I
not
think
quite-
once we get the architect on and he's come and looked at
He
everything.
has to do a building survey,
Yeah,
right?
then I think
So
we would,
Then after that, we'll have a
yeah, I
meeting.
think it would make sense to let him
Fine.
get in first.
Get him in and find out what needs to be done.
Yeah, any type of conversation we'd have with him right now would probably be theoretical.
Fine.
Because he doesn't really know us.
All right.
That brings us to the DASNY grant disbursement agreement. I can personally speak to this because this goes back many years. And our senator at the time had some dormitory fund money and said to Mr. Gamberg and I at the time, you guys have anything you want going on? And we said, we'd really like to expand those tennis courts. Can we make that happen? I thought the way New York State works, that was long gone, long gone, like that would never, ever happen. So I just, again, want to express gratitude to Senator Val for once again looking out for our district. I'm looking for a motion to approve the DASNY grant disbursement agreement for the amount of $150,000 to go towards the expansion of the tennis court facilities.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Policy Committee report.
We'll have a meeting either the 16th or the 20th.
I think she said
I think it's the
16th
16th,
today. I think we got an email today.
Okay.
16th. New business? School, opening a school. That'll be new business next month, right? Second hearing of visitors. If anybody cares to address the board at this time, feel free to do so.
I would like to ask, what would the money of the DASNY grant most likely be towards?
Expansion of the tennis
Yeah.
courts.
By
Yeah.
how many?
We're not sure yet.
We're working on that with the architect now to find out.
You can't do that in a month, can you?
No.
No.
The 23rd?
Sorry. To be honest with you, at the time that we discussed this, that's how many years ago, there were a lot more courts in mind that this money could have funded, but, with the cost of everything, it's not like, it was two at least, right?
was two,
I think it's fair to say two.
Yeah, I don't believe the cost would even cover two now.
No, I don't think so.
So we're looking at a few different options. Once I get them all, I'll bring them all to the board, and then we'll figure out, which is the best possible option. Unfortunately, you'll be able to come back as a graduate and use them more so.
Like my children who were not here for the track field or the beautiful library or all the other
Yeah.
things that they come back and they go, you couldn't have done this when we were here?
It would make such a difference for the home matches to have more than
We're working,
courts.
like I said, it's been a process for years and years and
Yeah,
years.
so
It just,
Mr. Carver had, Coach Carver had mentioned a couple of times that had been kicked around, but he didn't think it'd make it by the time Ellie graduated. He was right.
I think at one point, wasn't there a
There
private, there
was-
was someone in the community
that was
who
going to
had talked about actually,
purchase a couple extra.
building it for us, and that never
It
panned
didn't
out.
fit. But if nothing else, we've learned how long things take.
Well, we've been here, what, 115 years, 114 years, so.
Long time.
Second question, has there been a teacher appointed for the position of French?
Not as of yet.
We're in the interview process.
Board member commentary. Mr. Latham,
I have nothing.
Dr. Crean.
Summer is here, and it's gonna, almost August. I know our staff is gonna work hard to get us open, and I certainly hope we don't see masks again, but if we do, we'll be okay. You know, the kids were great last year. This community was fabulous, and if we have to endure a little more of a headache, we're gonna be okay, but hopefully not. But I just, I'm, I feel bad if the kids have to wear masks again, but we'll be okay. No matter what, we're gonna be okay.
That's the worst of it.
Yeah, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, agreed. Ellie, thank you so much for considering even presenting it to us. That means a lot, I know.
Yeah, no,
to
I
us,
think
and
it's
I'm
wonderful.
sure Brian and Judy will be very sorry that they missed it. I appreciate the time that you put into it, and as I said, that you brought it here with us. Thanks to your mom and your grandma for coming as well. John says our staff works really hard all year round, but especially in the summer, a lot of the unseen stuff gets done to get us open, and it'll certainly be different than last summer, and I really hope that we get something from the state sooner rather than later, so it's not that
At least we know.
2 weeks before school kind of thing. So that's it. Thank you for coming. A motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Stay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.